79 guns, 4,000 bullets, enough firepower to arm an entire criminal network. Police say this gang could have flooded the UK with up to 700 illegal firearms before they were finally caught. The men behind it thought they'd found the perfect method. They hid guns inside modified car engine blocks and transported them across Europe, believing no one would ever look inside. But their plan collapsed in July 2017, when Border Force and the National Crime Agency intercepted a van before it entered the Channel Tunnel. What investigators discovered inside turned out to be one of the biggest firearm seizures in modern UK history. Before we dive deeper into the case, make sure you're subscribed for more UK true crime breakdowns and organised crime investigations. The conspiracy was led by 37-year-old Stephen Spires and 26-year-old Denise Kolenchukov, with their associate, 28-year-old Michael Nichols. All three were from Slough. Their goal was simple: buy cheap guns legally overseas, bring them into Britain hidden in vehicles, and sell them at huge markups to criminals on the streets. Kolenchukov's background gave him an advantage. As a Czech national, he could legally buy small caliber revolvers in his home country. These 4mm and 6mm handguns cost as little as £35 to £130 each. On the UK black market, however, the same revolvers sold for between £1,000 and £2,000. That profit margin made the risk worthwhile. Between January and July 2017, investigators believe the gang organised at least 7 smuggling runs. 6 succeeded. On the 7th, they were caught. Officers searching the van's trailer found 2 adapted engine blocks. Hidden inside were 79 handguns, carefully wrapped in plastic, along with more than 4,000 rounds of live ammunition. That single haul was worth up to £150,000 on the black market. But prosecutors later told the court that the conspiracy had already brought in far more. Based on the evidence, they believed as many as 500 to 700 firearms may have been successfully smuggled before the July seizure. The arrests came quickly. Kolenchukov was caught arriving at Dover from Dunkirk. 2 days later, Spires and Nichols were arrested in the car park of the Whip and Collar pub, with 9 more guns in their possession. Searches of properties in Slough provided investigators with financial records, emails, and other evidence linking them to multiple smuggling runs. In total, 95 firearms were directly recovered during the operation. But the true number was almost certainly higher. In fact, in 2017, 138 illegal revolvers were seized across the UK. Prosecutors said the weapons linked to this conspiracy represented a huge proportion of that figure, and may only have been the tip of the iceberg. At Kingston Crown Court, jurors heard how the conspiracy worked. Kolenchukov bought the weapons legally in the Czech Republic and arranged for them to be shipped by an unwitting courier. Once they arrived in the UK, Spires handled their distribution from the Seaborough Industrial Estate in Slough. Nichols also played a role in handling weapons inside the country. Judge Rajiv Shetty described the case as staggering. He told the defendants, "While these guns are revolvers, they are still lethally powerful. Every single gun and every single bullet could have killed someone. They were imported and sold for profit, with indifference about who they may hurt. You are aware that these guns were going to proper criminals for proper criminal activity." He addressed Spires directly, who gave a thumbs up as he was sentenced. For someone who obviously has so much energy and, may I say, a degree of natural charisma, what a waste of a life this has been. Both Spires and Kolenchukov were jailed for 26 years each, totaling 45 years between them. Nichols was convicted of conspiracy to import firearms and possession of a prohibited weapon, though his sentencing was delayed at the time because of his barrister's illness. Officials didn't mince their words about the scale of the danger. Graham Gardner, Deputy Director of the NCA, said, "This operation has resulted in a large number of viable firearms being taken out of circulation before they could reach the UK. These weapons were intended for criminal use in London and across the country. Firearms crime poses a significant threat to the public, and this case shows how multiple agencies can work together to keep people safe." Detective Chief Superintendent Michael Gallagher of the Met Police added, "I have no doubt that a number of these weapons were destined for the streets of London, where they would have caused misery and unspeakable damage to the community. The danger was simple. These weren't hunting rifles or antiques. They were compact revolvers, small, concealable, and lethal. The kind of weapon favoured by organised crime groups for robberies, disputes, and intimidation. For gangs, they were easy to move and easy to hide. For police, they represented a surge in gun availability that threatened to undermine years of work, keeping firearms rare in the UK. The smuggling method was clever but risky. The engine blocks looked like spare car parts, nothing unusual for a trailer crossing into Britain. But inside, hollowed-out compartments held the weapons. To the naked eye, they looked legitimate. But to trained officers, something didn't add up. When the blocks were cut open, the truth was revealed. It's worth remembering just how much money was at stake. A revolver bought abroad for under £100 could sell in the UK for up to £2,000. Multiply that by hundreds of weapons, and the profits stretched into the millions. That greed was what drove the conspiracy, even though every gun could have ended up taking a life. The prosecution said bluntly that the group's activities significantly increased the availability of firearms in the UK. And in a country with some of the strictest gun laws in the world, that kind of influx is exactly what law enforcement fears. Britain's gun crime rate is low compared to other nations precisely because weapons are hard to get. A conspiracy smuggling hundreds of guns in just 6 months put that stability at risk. For Spires and Kolenchukov, the outcome was prison. For Nichols, his conviction meant he too would face years behind bars. For investigators, the case was a success. Dozens of guns were removed from circulation. But prosecutors warned that many more may already have slipped through, and that some of those weapons could still be in use by criminals today. This case underlines the constant challenge for law enforcement. Borders can be crossed, vehicles can be adapted, and criminals will always chase profit. But every seizure like this saves lives. By intercepting 79 guns in one operation, police and the NCA likely prevented shootings, robberies, and violence that might never be fully counted. The story of Spires, Kolenchukov, and Nichols is one of greed and recklessness. They believed they had found a perfect loophole. Instead, they exposed themselves to some of the longest sentences handed down for firearms importation in recent memory. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure you're subscribed for more UK true crime stories. And if you want to see how other gangs smuggled weapons into Britain using everything from microwaves to furniture, check out the video linked here next. Thanks for watching and stay safe.